Welcome to another instalment from Retired Anang. One of the things we're going to do over the coming weeks is look at all of the issues in relation to moving from Australia to Vietnam. And it's really important that you go through a checklist. No two people will have the same checklist. I can tell you, no two people will or couple will have the same answers to these questions, but they're your answers. And one of the things you need to have a look at is in moving to Da Nang, or if you choose to move somewhere else in Vietnam or Philippines or Thailand, Malaysia, what are the issues you have, and work out your own balance of how you want to live in these individual countries. So over the coming weeks we're going to look at particularly family and social ties. What did you have and what could you have here? We're going to look at health and medical care, which is really important for our target audience here at 50 to 70 years of age. We'll cover off on legal and residency issues both now and what it looks like in the future. I think really then we look at the nuts and bolts of the financial and retirement planning side. And there's a whole lot of technical as well as social and commercial issues you need to have a look at when you look at that. As soon as people come here, they say, I'll get a job or I'll open up a business. So we look at business, employment and career opportunities. And then we'll have a look at lifestyle and daily living and all those practical things that we need to just to live a good life here. And then finally, for those people who have children, or you're bringing your extended family with you, whatever, we'll have a look at education. And the other side is your own personal education as you get older. I'm still in a learning framework that I like to learn, so that's my lifelong goal. So I just discussed that we're after 50 to 70 year olds as a target audience for these ones, and you can be a single or a couple. If you imagine you're a pensioner and you're living in Australia on $500 a week or $800 a week for a couple, how are you able to live? And those financial concerns are really important. But the other thing you've got to have a look at in shifting from Australia to somewhere like Da Nang is to consider the broader implications of what all that looks like. All right, so you've got all of the issues around particularly family and social ties. I've got my own issues at the moment. I've got two wonderful children. They've got amazing partners and husbands and wives, or future husbands and wives. I've got a new grandchild who I miss desperately, and there's a whole lot of reasons that I haven't been able to go back so far. But you really need to have a look at, moving away from them. What is it about that makes it difficult? And how can you plan to lessen that? How often you might plan to go back. We're lucky now that Vietjet is potentially starting direct flights from Western Sydney to Da Nang, so it's certainly going to cut down those flight times and the time that takes to get back to Australia. I've done a few flights on Vietjet lately, and quite frankly I'm pretty impressed with the airline. It's an easy, I'm a big unit, so I tend to fit in the seats, even the economy seats, as long as I get an exit row. I can't travel Vietnam Airlines because if you're over 60 they won't let you be in an exit row, so I don't travel with them. So going backwards and forwards to see family is an important consideration, but you've also got to remember that we're talking about social media today. And social media today is not what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I went to live in New Zealand, and quite frankly it was just a phone call and a letter back then, so it was very, very different to what it is today. So that's something, again, you've got to balance up. The next thing to consider is elderly parents or relatives. I've just had that myself, where my mother's elderly, bloody amazing person, and my father just passed away, and you feel alone. Haven't been able to secure a seat to get back to to the funeral because it's a short time frame and cheap seats are you've got to take a longer term plan for it, so that's always a problem. And you got to look how they've been cared for. So I'm lucky. I've got a brother who my mother lives with, but she'll go into care because Jude loves to have a chat, and hopefully she'll go in and be near more people all the time. But luckily I've got my brother and my beautiful sister-in-law to help with that. But getting back there for emergencies is really difficult, particularly from here. When you first move here, and I found this when I first came a few years ago, it's the emotional impact on me. I came here for business. I underestimated the effect that it would have on me being so alone here. The business I was with at the time only looked at the financial aspect. They didn't look at the effect on me emotionally being here alone, and I got very little support emotionally from that side. It was more of a tough yard. So but if you're moving here for not for business reasons but to live, it becomes super important to make sure that you build up those networks. And if you come to Da Nang, there's a couple of areas you might go north to Sontra or over in the northern beaches. But it's really important when you first get here to build those social networks. I really set it up 12 months ago by opening up the Aussie Bistro with the family. One of the beauties of owning this bar is it is my Australia, so I get to talk to Australians every day, and I'm an extrovert, and I just love chatting to people. So anybody that comes in here, I chat to them about any aspect of moving here, and I think that's a really important part of that move, right? It's just so important not to feel alone. People will go out and have Vietnamese all week, and I can tell you can go out and have a breakfast for 25,000. You can have a lunch for 25,000. That's $1.50, right? You can go out and do that. I'm going to do some shopping videos next up. But you can really, and it's beautiful food. But once a week, you need that taste of Australia, that taste of Western food, Australia or somewhere else. And the tastes here in Da Nang are so broad. So if you're going to retire here, you can eat Spanish, you can eat all sorts of other foods, and you meet a lot of really great Western people here. I find I've got just as many Englishmen, Europeans, Americans come into this bar and seek the same sort of comfort in talking to other people and hearing and not speaking so much through translators, and we'll talk about that later on. The other one now I'll talk about is inheritance or estate planning. The first thing that happens when people come in here, they say, "Oh, buy a unit," right? And that's, you can buy a unit, you can buy a villa and live here very, very well. But if you're looking at estate planning, something you need to consider. It's easy to get money in here, it's hard to get money out. So the really important part of that is looking at exit opportunities for getting money out of this country. Once we all pass away, we all got a limited life, baby. So getting money out and getting it into your estate is an important consideration for the future. You need to make sure your wills are all up to date. You need to make sure that your powers of attorney are all set, all right, so that people can move on your behalf in Australia. And it's going to become really interesting over time, your ability to live here from all sorts of issues, and we'll look at the taxation stuff later. But I want to push here hard that there's a few things I want to work on in the coming months, and one of those is how we need the Australian government to change its view of living in Vietnam. It's really difficult for pensioners. There's certain rules you've got to go through before you can move here and receive your pension. But I think the Australian government needs to take a broader view on this and have a look at, well, if I'm not in Australia, all right, what's the effect on the health system? What's the effect on the housing market? how are you going to make it easy for me to live here? Because right now, it's, for instance, if you're on a pension for old age, there's a lot of rules. All right, if you're on a disability pension, it's almost impossible. Yet, really, you don't earn enough money. You're not getting enough money to live in Australia. But there is an opportunity for you to come here. The other one we need to have a look at is the 1967 licensing, international licence regulations where Australia is not signed, which means that you can't use your international licence here in Vietnam. I have a licence until the end of this month, when my TRC finishes, and then I've got to look at getting another TRC, so that temporary residency card, so that I can have a driver's licence and live here and get around and see people and see the country. Unfortunately, all I've done since I got here is work. Now that I'm moving into the Retire Vietnam and the Aussie Bistro, that's going to slow down the other side of the business, which I'm still going to keep going. But I'll be full on these businesses and looking to help people move here and looking at people to come together to look at structures on how you might efficiently live here. So let's keep an eye open for those structures in the future. Anyway, that's the first instalment. I'm going to try and keep them to sort of 10 to 15 minutes for a video. My background is I'm on the Australian Chamber of Commerce here in Vietnam. I'm one of the 12 board members, and it's really important to me that we give good information to people. I also was one of the inaugural people to start up the Central Vietnam Business Association, which is a wonderful group of people who have come together to help people live and work in the central region of Vietnam more effectively. And I've got to tell you, it's a magnificent place to live, which is why I moved here. So talk to you next time, and enjoy your life, eh? See ya.